Hola amigos. In this video, we're going to use comparisons. We're going to learn how to use the comparatives with an unequal amount. I have another video. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I do that where I compare equal amounts, equal things, equal frequency, equal whatever adverbs. So we talk about doing, somebody is just as much as somebody else. Somebody is just as handsome as someone else. Someone is just as tall as someone else. Somebody plays football just as often as someone else. So we learned all those in another video. And if you're looking for that, those are called the, I think I have it labeled something like comparatives with equal or equality or something like that. This is going to be with unequal stuff. So I say stuff because I'm trying to give an umbrella term for, we're going to talk about things that are different. They're going to be varied with how unequal they are. So let me stop fumbling around here and just show you some examples here. So we're going to use to compare unequal items, things, amounts. We are going to use the formula here, mas, and then this part of speech plus k. So we'll have mas and then an adjective and then k to talk about how much somebody has more of this quality than someone else, or less of that quality than someone else. Somebody is more intelligent than someone else. We use this más, then inteligente, and then que. And so this is actually kind of easy in a way that as long as you know what we're doing with this middle part here, it's going to be pretty consistently just más, and then that, and then que. Couple exceptions, but we'll talk about those later. And then we can also use it to describe adverbs, and we can use it to describe nouns. And I'm going to talk about those in this next slide. So in my example a little bit ago, I did say something about someone being more intelligent than someone else. I hope I didn't hurt their feelings, but just trying to use it as an example to show in English, we do this where we'll have more and then the adjective and then more intelligent than. We use that with a lot of our longer adjectives. We will put the more in front of it. But we also have the shorter adjectives where you just add an ER. We have a comparative form of that adjective. That does not happen in Spanish. So while we have the word, let me highlight this here, or you can see where my arrow is at right now, my cursor, taller. We've got that form. In Spanish, it's más alto. It doesn't matter if it's a short adjective. In Spanish, it's just going to be más alto. And then let's go on and look at some more examples. So we know we're always just going to have that más, adjective, que. So here we've got we're going to say something is more expensive than something else. And to do that, we have that más, we've got the que, and the adjective goes in between. Now you're also probably aware that we have 4 different forms of the adjective potentially. And so in this one does have 4 different forms, and we're using the masculine plural form of caro. And we use the masculine plural form of the adjective because the subject is masculine in plural. Now, if we had it doesn't matter what we're comparing it to, like over here, we're comparing it to el pollo, and that is a singular masculine noun. We're still using the masculine plural form. It doesn't matter what we compare it to. So caros is caros because of los bistecs, nothing else. So we have our subject. Our verb, of course, agrees with our subject, and then also our adjective will agree with our subject. Another example, esas uvas son menos ricas que esa pera. Now, these grapes are less tasty, delicious than that pear. But now instead of using más, what we did over here, we use menos to say less. And then we have our adjective and then que. So you can use either más que to say more than, or menos que to say less than. But the adjective will agree with whatever the subject is. In this case, it was ricas because of uvas, feminine, plural, ricas, feminine, plural. Pera, feminine, singular, irrelevant. It doesn't matter what would follow here. Ricas will be ricas anyway because of uvas. Okay. So that's with adjectives. Now with adverbs, it'll work, I think, even a little bit more easily, in that we will use an adverb in between the más que or the menos que. Just depends on whatever our adverb is. It doesn't, I mean, our adverb won't change. So if you can see tarde is tarde, no matter what the subject of the sentence is. And temprano is temprano, no matter what the subject is. You know, this is the adverb. So it's not an adjective. It doesn't have 4 different forms. It has 1 form. So we're going to use this to compare, you know, whatever an adverb does. And we're going to compare how something is done, when something is done, where something is done. So when we do those with our adverbs, we just put it right between the más and the que, or the menos and the que. Okay. And then nouns. Now nouns will, there's a little bit more to the nouns that we'll talk about in another video, but to keep it pretty simple here, we'll just stick with the más and then the que. Juan prepara más platos que Jose. Here we're comparing, it's a noun. Now the noun is completely independent of any other part of the sentence. So platos is platos because we want to compare the dishes or the plates. That's it. It has nothing to do with Juan. It doesn't matter what our subject is, what our verb is, or anything else. It's just más, and then whatever our noun is. Okay. And now in this case, he's preparing more than someone else, but he's comparing more, the quantity, more dishes than him. Susana come menos carne que Enrique. She eats less meat than Enrique. So she is, you know, eating is the verb in this case, and we're just talking about, but what we're comparing is the amount of meat. So it's a noun. That's carne is a noun. So we use just the menos carne que formula. If it were more meat, más carne que. We can change this subject to anything else. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be carne. Carne is a noun. It's a set noun. It's not going to change no matter what the subject is. Now, I mentioned I said I'd get to talk about nouns a little bit more later on, and I'm going to do that in another video where we're going to talk about when we deal with quantity. Sometimes we can do something different. So the amount of whatever goes in between our más que or menos que can change, and then also we can, depending if we're talking about quantity, things can be different. So there will be another video to look for to go into some more of the details about inequality comparisons. But in the for the last thing I want to finish off with is we can also compare verbs. Now, it wasn't in the previous part of the lesson, but here it's done a little bit differently. As you can see, we've been doing the más, and then, you know, más, adjective, que, menos, adjective, que, but we always have the más or the menos first, then our adjective, adverb, or noun, and then que. But we can compare with verbs, and we can say that somebody, in this case, like my brother, travels less than I do. And when we do that, it's done a little bit differently. Instead of putting the part of speech in between the más and the que, or the menos and the que, we put the verb first and then add right after it más que or menos que, as you can see in the example. So mi hermano viaja menos que yo, you know, or you could make that mi hermano viaja más que yo. I guess I should also mention, whenever we're comparing it to people, we'll use the subject pronouns. So if it's somebody speaks more than me, you know, esta persona habla más que yo. Yo we're using. Yo, if you want to pronounce it that way. And if they speak more, this person speaks more than you, then we're going to compare it to tú. We're not going to use ti or te or whatever else you might be thinking in there. So esta persona habla más que tú. And same thing with the other subject pronouns, más que él, más que ella, más que usted, más que nosotros, más que vosotros, más que ellos, ella, ustedes. So that's if you're comparing it to one of those subjects, we'll use the actual subject pronoun. All right, this is it. There's still more to this. This is just where I'm going to stop it for today. But there'll be another video you'll see that goes into some more detail about comparing inequalities with when we're talking about quantity. Adios.